Hi everyone, I'm Kieran Woodsmith from 81 Vintage and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be showing you how to create pin cushions from old teapots and old teacups. I created these for my very first craft show and they were an absolute hit success. Mike's mum's birthday is coming up real soon, so I thought this would be a great time to dust off this old idea.
So you first want to find yourself a pretty teacup and a pretty teapot. These ones I picked up for £1 each in the charity shop, so I'm not too worried about using them, but I'm sure some of my American friends could find some fantastic ones in your amazing thrift stores that I'm so jealous of. I then had this pretty fabric that's a nice vintage curtain. I had a phase of making bunting out of vintage curtains and I'll share that video with you at some point. And I thought I'd work on the teapot first, and I just drew around the saucer as a guide for the circle for the pin cushion. Also a shout out to Madam G from my knockdown doll video, who told me to use the entire length of the blade of the scissors, and I will forever think of you when I use scissors from now on. I'm not quite sure I was using them to their full potential, but I will get better. Then it's time to sew, and you can do this in multiple ways. You could use an elastic band, you could use hot glue, you could use a zip tie, but I find that sewing gives it a real, gives you more control over how the piece comes out. And this is the first time that I've ever really struggled to thread a needle. I'm definitely starting to feel that age, and threading needles is not the most attractive thing by the looks of it. I'm using some strong thread, and anybody can do this sewing project. Basically you want to do a running stitch around the edge. Now I find that if you're not that comfortable with a needle and thread, using a slightly larger needle is easier and gives you more control. And I'm just weaving it all the way around and pulling it, and then what you'll eventually end up with is something that looks like a shower cap. But I'm just going sort of every centimetre or so around the edge of the circle, and you don't even have to be that neat because this will all be hidden away. I used to make these for craft fairs and they always went down a storm. Then it's time to fill it, and I've just got some leftover batting here or some leftover wadding. You can also use some polyfill or something from an old pillow. And then I just stuffed the shower cap full, pulled it taut, tied it off, and then popped it in the top of the teapot. And once you squeeze it in there, it makes a fantastic pin cup. Next onto the cup, it's pretty much exactly the same process, except you want a much bigger circle. So again, using that saucer for a rough guide for a circle shape, but I added on about 4 inches all the way around. So it's exactly the same process, but I'm going to show you how I start my thread. So I tie a knot on the end of my thread, and sometimes if you pull, it can pull through. So what I always do is a couple of stitches just at the very start before I go on with my running stitch. Then again, fill it with all that batting. Then again, fill it up. And pull it taut, and then just adjust the wadding so that it is a nice round shape. And then what you can also do is bunch it up in your hands so that all the wadding goes nice and firm. And then wrap your leftover thread around that bulb shape that you've made, and then just do a few stitches to lock that in place. and then just pat it around again and pop it in your teacup. And you can of course hot glue this in if you want as well. If you want to, you can super glue your teacup to your saucer. To do this, just use some standard super glue, run a bead all the way around and let it dry. Then I used to find that these could be quite brittle, so if you snap off your teacup and then re-glue it again, that's much more secure. I particularly love the teapot because it's a perfect place to hide all those little sewing things that you need. And the teacup is super handy for when you're working with a sewing machine. You can pull those out and then just pop them on the saucer until you're finished. Be sure to let me know down in the comments below what you would think if you received this gift and whether you think Mike's mum will like it.
I hope you liked this video. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for lots more quirky, upcycled, fun projects. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.